It is the eve of National Signing Day, or what used to be National Signing Day, since we have early signing period. Now, we thought it'd be a good idea to sit down and talk about how would we grade the 2023 cycle in all its tumultuousness, in all its glory for Coach Hugh Freeze and what he has pulled together in such a short amount of time. That is here on this edition of Good Morning Auburn. Well, good morning, Auburn family, E2C Network family. We appreciate you being here, hanging out with us, spending some time talking about something in the Auburn family spectrum. Always heavy on the sports here on this channel, but if it's orange and blue, it is what we do. We appreciate you being here, whether you're watching technically live, even though this is a recorded video. You guys are going to be watching this on a premiere thing and can chat with each other. If you're watching this on the replay, we appreciate you being here, however you got here, hanging out with us today and checking out what we have to say about this topic in the Auburn family spectrum. As we did yesterday, I had a guest on to tackle a topic with me, and we've got another familiar face here with us today to talk about another topic that I think you guys are going to find very interesting over the coming days, as this is National Signing Day week, National Signing Day being on Wednesday, and we're going to dive into that a little bit, a grading of how we think Hugh Freeze would do. But before we get into that, let me welcome my guest and my friend, Mr. Dusty. What's going on, Dusty? Or Dustin?
Oh, good evening.
Should I, when you're in official capacity, should I just call you Dustin?
Okay, so this is a thing with like my family and friends, right? It just takes time. You can call me Dusty.
I'm just so used to it. That's how I knew you from the very beginning. So when my wife tonight was asking me, who are you doing this? And I was like, oh, it's Dusty. He's like, who's Dusty? The guy named Dustin I told you about. And it's like, it's just I can't stop calling him. So anyway, we're not here to discuss.
Me and you are on that status, buddy. You can call me Dusty.
I appreciate being allowed to be on that status. But we're not here to get into the phonetics of how you call somebody and whatever colloquial names you want to use. We want to talk about some recruiting news. And obviously, Dusty, this is not as big of a hype period for the recruiting cycle anymore. Early signing period is kind of taking the cake as the actual big signing day now. And in some ways, that's a good thing, but we still want to acknowledge what's about to take place because there are some things that need to be finalized, not just for Auburn, but for a lot of college football teams coming up here on this day. But enough has happened for us, even without maybe one signing that hasn't taken place yet. And who else knows what else might be up, the sleeve of Hugh Freeze at this point. At least at this point, we have a good idea of what the success of this class would look like and how it could possibly be graded out by us. So that's what I want us to walk towards, is how we would grade this out. How we get there is strictly up to you. So I want to open the floor for you, just some opening thoughts about what you think this class, you're kind of just how you process it all and how you think about it. I know that's a big, broad question, but I just want to kind of give you an opportunity to kind of set the table for us.
Yeah, buddy. Coming from where it started, and like you mentioned, how recruiting has changed. Now it's the early signing day, and you look at the transfer portal, this whole thing is just different than I remember when you were growing up. It was February 2nd. I wanted to take off work or take off school and just watch ESPN all day because all these commitments were popping off. It's just a different thing now. You'll see this weekend with Junior Day. These kids are committing earlier and earlier and earlier because the recruiting process has got so crazy, right? They want to go ahead, commit before their senior year, sometimes before their junior year. Look at a guy like Amon Lane. He makes his decision early in his junior year. Just, okay, I think it was a Big Cat, right? So it was technically
Before Big Cat weekend. Yeah,
it was before his junior year. So, and he's locked into Auburn. He's good to go. It's they would just want to go their senior year. They just want to play football and focus on their team, their high school year, enjoy and a lot of them also, they come in and enroll early. So they're not even finishing out their senior year. A lot of them are missing prom, all that kind of stuff. They want to commit, get their last little bit of high school in, and then get off and get to their school and get ready to play. And you look at a guy like Keldrick Falk, right, who recently just got his 5th star. It makes sense.
Right.
I want to graduate high school and get in right away. I want to play in spring ball because I'm going to be a guy that is going to get significant reps from the get-go.
Right.
And that's just becoming more and more of a thing. So this class is pretty much locked up. But look at a guy like Jarquez Hunter. That's a guy that we got in this little dead period. So you don't ever know, man. There's still some guys that might slip through the cracks that Hugh Freeze and there's one thing we do know: this staff isn't going to leave any stone unturned. I mean, they have proven in their month, and then guys like Zach and Cadillac that have been there for a long time now that they are all in. They are locked in. You see how Hugh built the staff; he built it around recruiters. So if there is somebody out there to get, I trust that they're gonna get them.
And that's the thing, right? Is because this is a crunch time for this program. The program sits on the precipice of falling into ambiguity, into obscurity. And I know that's a little bit of hyperbole, but that's with the arms race that takes place with guys and trying to keep somewhat in the rearview mirror of teams like Alabama and Georgia. You've got to be able to have much more sustained success. So you've got to like make this very first one. It may not be the recruiting class that we'll all remember as the best of Hugh Freeze in however long his time lasts here, but it is one that I think we'll look back on and like, wow, hopefully we're looking at it and saying, wow, this one that really got us started in the right foot. And it feels like that's the way it happened. And I think too, we're coming from a place where the recruiting was less than ideal. So it's also easy for us to go and say, this is great. This is amazing. So there's both sides of that coin that you want to kind of rationalize when you're asking the question, how do we grade this out? So like when we get towards that answer, what were you looking for Hugh to do to say, check in this box, he's doing what he needs to do to get those high marks to kind of start pushing that grade up for me? What were you looking for in this class?
First off, addressing needs. The roster management over multiple staffs now. And I think highly of Gus's overall ability to coach. I think highly of Gus's overall ability to recruit. He always signed good recruiting classes. But just there were certain positions that just got neglected. I mean, obviously offensive line stands out. And in less than a month, and look, it's all paper. We still got to see it play out. But I feel a lot better about the offensive line than I did. Now, offensive line went from my number one concern to now it's linebacker. And even there were some late additions in the portal at the end. I wanted to see a game plan, a sense of direction. And one thing that I've talked about you a million times with, I am tired of seeing Central Phoenix City kids go to other places. I am tired of seeing these kids in Montgomery go to other places. It is time for us to lock down the people in our backyard. Not to pile on the old staff, but we spent a lot of resources and time going and recruiting a 4-star kid, a wide receiver in Portland that ultimately committed to Michigan.
Yep.
You don't need to do that when there's a high school right up the street that's got 3 or 4 4-star receivers every year.
Right.
They're just going to Clemson and going to Alabama and going to Kentucky.
Right.
Hugh has already been to he posted a picture today. He was in Central Phoenix City. Tampa Catholic. Everybody on our staff has already been down there. We're building relationships down there. You could bring a guy like Marcus Davis in as a wide receiver coach. He has connections in South Florida. There just seems to be a game plan. That's what I wanted to see. Was there's not scattered. There's a direction. This is where we're going. We're attacking positions of need, and we're establishing relationships in these specific areas, and this is how we're going to lock it down. Right. Kyle, look at this defensive back class, man.
Yeah, you got a lot of names in there, especially, you want to talk about local kids in there too. JC Hart's one of them. It's a big, I think a lot of people are overlooking JC Hart. If, I would say a quick plug to the rest of the Good Morning Auburn videos that I'm doing, that you might see him arise up in a topic that I broach a little bit later in the week. Yeah, I love what you said about comparing what the previous staff was trying to do versus what is happening here. You got the example of, I can't remember the guy's name, but yes, going out to Oregon, swing for the fences yes, thank you. It's been a while. Swinging for the fences out there. I love the ambition, but if you neglect your backyard, and it's what we talk about a lot of times when I do recruiting videos here for guys that commit, and I think people roll their eyes and say, he's talking about this again. There's a reason I talk about your pipeline states, your backyard. People overlook how important it is to take care of your own. So when we talk about backyard, we talk about, Montgomery, Lochapoka, as you said, Central Phoenix City, that kind of radius you could put around there. Then another radius going into Birmingham, going down to lower Alabama, up into Georgia a little bit, and then even a further radius that encompasses basically all of Alabama, Georgia, Florida, and however you'd like to spread that out. You can slice it up any other way, but take care of your backyard first. Don't let these guys slip through the cracks. And then if you want to go take a shot at someone out in Oregon, shoot your shot, man. I mean,
Right.
why not? So I love that that's where you're coming from, that take care of the needs, make sure that's taken care of, and then just go out there and see what happens. So what else comes to mind when you're trying to put a grade around this?
You're flipping. You had to flip guys. We were so behind just in numbers that you had to flip guys. And you look at a guy like Keldrick Falk, who we're going to go with his rivals rating, gets his 5th star. And the reason he got that 5th star, by the way, something we should all be excited about, is he was a 4-star because he's at Highland Homes, a small school. And it's just hard to grade a kid when he's going up against a 190-pound offensive lineman.
Right.
I went to school with Trent Richardson, and I remember a game when he had 20 carries for 490 yards. Like, just, like, so sometimes there's just levels to it. But Keldrick goes to the All-Star game and balls out, owns all week, is beating beating linemen that are committed to Alabama, by the way. Had a really good week. Kyan Lee, Ohio State, like, you see what that
When's the
program
last
is right
time we
now.
flipped somebody from Ohio State?
It's wild, man. And they pushed hard. Like, when they knew they were losing him, they made a hard push NIL wise and just in general. Like, that's somebody that they didn't want to lose. Sylvester Smith, this is a 4-star safety. A lot of these guys, like JC Hart's a good example. It's just because the defensive back, this class is so loaded. These guys are going to get lost, but this guy's committed to Tennessee. A&M's hard after him as well. And Tennessee just went, 11-2, right? The great year. Heupel's done a great job. Their program is ascending up, and you come in and you flip him just out the blue. Like, he was a surprise visitor. It was, he's on campus. Boom. And then let's go to a portal guy real quick. Justin Rogers. Let's go to his story. So he had a visit planned for the weekend in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. He comes to Auburn, sees that beautiful new facility, sits down with Brother Hugh, and has a little conversation with On to Victory. And guess what? I don't even need to go to Tuscaloosa. When was the last time that happened? So I'm looking at flips, and then I'm looking at little things like that, saying, man, I think the tide's starting to change.
Oh, and you throw in a certain word in there too, and a little play on words with what just happened there. I like it. So when you look at this, and we want to kind of start moving towards our grade now, but are you looking at it as a whole more? Or are you trying to like grade transfers versus traditional high school or JUCO together? Like, how did you kind of look at it when you were coming to this grade?
I looked at it as a whole because of the situation that he was in.
Okay.
Just like I said before, just bad roster management from multiple staffs in certain positions. Like, what you want to do is you want to try to stack your classes, right? You want to stack eligibility. You don't want to have a class super loaded in one position like you have at defensive line this year. We just have all these upperclassmen, and we didn't fill it out just numbers wise,
right,
in the classes behind it. And then all of a sudden now it's a mad scramble. That's just you don't want to do that. And we had to do that at offensive line this year, and we had to do it at defensive line. So that's 2 positions in the SEC. You definitely don't want to be scrambling. Yeah. So just looking at so just looking at the situation as a whole, and let's not discount the perception issue that Auburn has had in recruiting lately. Man, we love Auburn. Me and you have seen good times at Auburn. But a lot of these kids in the last 2 or 3 years are coming away from these visits, and this is a real quote that's been said 4 or 5 times. Man, I was kind of surprised at that crowd for a basketball school. It's a real thing that's been said. And think about it. These kids are 16. They don't know anything about, they got a YouTube Cadillac. Even at this point, they got a YouTube Cam Newton. Auburn has lost at least 4 games for 9 straight years. So we haven't been in that upper tier.
Right.
And I think sometimes we forget that because we love Auburn so much, and we have this respect for it, and we know what it's capable of. So there's perception issues as well. So you just take the whole thing into account, man.
Right.
Um, I understand people that grade it out and say, but I understand people that would look at it and grade it with saying like, okay, well, like we didn't add a quarterback, so I can't
Right.
give it an A plus, or we didn't add this amount of people at this position. We could have added a little more linebackers, so whatever. And that's a fair way to grade it. But for
Right.
me, man, it's an A plus because I just look at everything he had to do on and off the field. Like there's so many things behind the scenes he had to tidy up. This whole and the new age,
Right.
the NIL, the portal, just everything that is involved with it, man. It is crazy. I couldn't, if I was a coach right now, I'd be dying to get to the NFL and get away from everything that is involved in college. And if you read some articles and listen to some guys like Josh Pate, a lot of stuff been being said behind the scenes.
Right.
A lot of
Right.
these college coaches are saying, "Man,
Yeah.
this is just too much." So all that considered, man, it's hard to not look at it. And then when I say perception, how do we feel as fans now? Like,
Right.
so I was just always something negative these last couple of years, right? Like it
Hmm.
was just always another negative story, especially in recruiting, another negative story, another miss, something like Connor Lew and these kind of things that continued to happen. And it's been the complete opposite. It's just
Right.
been nothing but positive news. It's been you're hearing good things from high school coaches. You're hearing good things from recruiting insiders. I give him an A plus, man, because in such a short time, and even with some backlash because of other things amongst our own fan base, he has just gone full steam ahead, put his head down, and we all, the hard work part about the creed, and he has embodied that, man. He gets it. He gets
Yep.
it.
Yeah. No, I think that's a very fair way to look at all this. I think this is a case where if you grade this out as an A plus and somebody grades this out as I don't think anybody's going to give him less than a B. Like if you're and you're gonna have to explain to
Right.
me B, like just and there may be reasoning behind it, but you're gonna have to explain that to me. And I'm sure there are some out there. So, but I won't in that range really argue or nitpick anybody because I'm sure people have got their reasons. For me, I'm just going to give it an A, and not because not giving it an A plus is like a knock on the class or anything like that, because as you said, everything that needed to be addressed was addressed, and then a little bit more. But there's always that little room for improvement, and I kind of like, not that my take on anything actually makes a difference to anybody, I hope not, because if it is, we're in a bad place as a program if I'm affecting things. But
Right,
uh
right.
you know, but I think an A, and that is no reflection on us not having a quarterback or not, or anything like that in this transfer class so far. But from what we know about this class right now, and maybe it's part of me is just kind of wanting to like speak this into existence almost, like maybe there's something out there. This is on the eve of the signing day that we don't know about, even beyond that, before everybody decides they're going to the transfer portal that we don't know about yet. It does feel like to me, if there's that one little piece, whatever that is, then you're going to put me. I'm like so close to A plus. It's
Yeah.
not even. It's not the A that I give is not a knock in any way. But I completely agree with your reasoning for an A plus as well. So what we'd love to hear from you all is your impressions, some of the things that we shared about how we got to this point, how we think about this class overall, even despite what may or may not happen on National Signing Day and beyond as they round out this 2023 class. Please let us know down there in the comments section below. I obviously want to invite you guys to check out the links in the description for ways that you can help support our content here. And as a reminder, I am on vacation this week. So just remember, though, that we have Good Morning Auburn for you every single morning at 8:30 a.m. Eastern time for you to tune into live, or you can watch on the replay. So those are your reminders for the show. I do want to give Dusty a chance to kind of plug what he wants to plug towards the end of our show here. So have the floor, Dusty.
Oh, yes, sir. This was fun, man. I appreciate it. And be safe and have a good time on your vacation.
I will try.
And just to put the bow on the recruiting thing and just the job that Hugh has done, I think that you will see this energy on A Day. I think this is going
Yep.
to be the most energized A Day. We've got the baseball game with the statue and all that with Frank Thomas. So I just think that it's going to be a really fun day at April 8th. And I hope everybody comes out and shows Hugh Freeze and these guys support. You can follow me on Twitter at dmcshaw28. You can follow me on YouTube at Southern Sports Daily, and also the Up Tempo podcast. I'm kind of doing a little bit of everything, man, staying busy. So appreciate you, buddy.
Of
War Eagle.
course. Okay, I appreciate you being here as well. We appreciate you guys for listening, watching, however you got here, from whichever way you came in. We appreciate you hanging out with me and Dusty today. to hear us talk a little bit about this little topic in the Auburn family spectrum. And we appreciate you guys for being here with us. Till we talk to you again, War Eagle.